My guest today, as I've mentioned already, is someone who knows the importance of sharing the Christian faith in public very well. Simon Smart is the director of the Centre for Public Christianity and regularly appears in newspapers, radio and television. He's also hosted a documentary series. And I'm pleased to say that Simon's with us in the studio today. Simon, it's good to talk to you.
Great to talk
Just
to
tell
you,
us
Keith.
what it is. What is the Centre for Public Christianity? I always think we should get beyond the titles. What is it?
Yes, it's a media company, and its aim is to promote the public's understanding of the Christian faith. So we're trying to address really a secular audience with a sense that there's an awful lot of misunderstanding about what's core to Christianity and why that might matter today.
So whenever anybody starts something with a title, I want to say, well, what's wrong before? What is it that people have got in their minds about the Christian faith that you want to address?
Well, plenty of things. I mean, it's a people who are Christians sometimes forget how foreign Christian faith is to people today. I mean, 2/3 of people say that they don't have a close friend who's a Christian. And so you've got a generation of people who haven't been brought up on the Bible stories, who haven't got this sort of frame of reference for to come to understand Christianity. So all they have is sort of vague sense of negative stories in the press about the church perhaps, things that have gone wrong, and a kind of sense that really if you're looking for the full life, you'd go somewhere other than that. And this is a real perception I would want to challenge.
And how important is it to share the Christian faith in the public space? I remember Bishop Gavin Reid talking about the difference between outreach and in drag. And so much of what we do is often saying, come to us on our terms, in our language, in our place. Why go into the public space?
I think it's absolutely vital that Christians don't assume that place. I think it's important to not kind of presume upon people, but to go to try to be good guests in sort of other people's houses, if you like, to be part of the public space. I think there's a real poverty. We're impoverished when people of faith, not only Christian actually, but other faiths too, aren't present in those public spaces to be engaging in good conversations about it. And so, I think it's essential because otherwise people are going to have terrible misunderstandings. They're not going to know people. They're not going to have that faith perspective. And I, of course, I share this with you, think that is a really important perspective on contemporary life. I think there are lots of signs that this sort of spiritual health of people is something that we're not doing so well with.
Simon, how do you go about it then?
We do it we're trying to, a bunch of ways. So we go into mainstream media, as you mentioned, writing for news outlets and newspapers, radio, television. We have a massive public library of all our content, which is all addressed to the secular person. We do public events and public speaking, and we publish books and produce documentaries. So that's our sort of 4 areas that we tackle it on.
And does that actually make connection with people? You've got evidence that works?
Oh, for sure. Lots of people say, you're the people we can share on Facebook, because I know it's for my, sceptical auntie or sister or daughter. These are the sorts of people who say to us, we've got friends who want to engage with them, and you're helping us to do that well. I think they're conscious of the fact that we're sensitive to the tone of voice we use. We're trying to kind of address people respectfully, generously, and be in real relationships with people. I mean, that shouldn't surprise us, though.
So you're not crowded with musts and shall and will, and all that kind of language?
Well, I hope not. I mean, you can check it out, Keith, but no, absolutely not. I mean, we sometimes say, let's be good guests. Let's be good guests in someone else's house.
So what are some of the issues that regularly emerge?
Well, see, the things that regularly emerge are often not the things we want to talk about, actually, because I often think of it as trying to address something that's a little bit more foundational than that. So what are people's worldview? What's their worldview, and what are ways Christianity can speak into that? What does it mean to be a human being, for instance? I don't think our culture's doing well in answering that. What's the nature of this universe? Is it a universe built on chaos and by an accident, or is it built on love? I mean, these are profoundly important questions to address, and I like to sort of tackle it at that level. Of course, you have to address sort of presenting issues too, and we do that, but I'm trying to get sort of people to have deeper, more meaningful conversations.
And you're empowering and I hope encouraging Christians to get the language right.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I think we've made mistakes, and sometimes we often do in this way, but I hope we're kind of modelling a nice posture towards people who don't share the belief, and sort of being respectful about that too.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus spent most of his time with the people that you're talking about, didn't he? He didn't spend as much time in the synagogue or the church as we want to.
And you got the sense that he loved people like that, right? And so I feel like that's how Christians ought to be in real relationships, be in the community, in their local clubs, and hopefully adding value to that, and being in people's lives in a way that any kind of engagement with faith becomes really natural then.
If someone's listening to our conversation today and is keen in their heart to be involved in sharing their faith in public, but they're a bit concerned about how they should go about it, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One would be do it sensitively and carefully, remembering how strange faith is for so many people today. I mean, we're the weirdos now, Keith. And we've got to remember that, I think. And there's also, sometimes people have reasonable reasons to be a bit cautious about faith. Sometimes the personal experience hasn't been positive, and I think a sensitivity to that is important too. But then I'd say, look, we have great good news to share with people. I think our society is struggling to find satisfying answers to the deepest of life's questions. And so, your viewers have things to offer there. We can offer something that speaks right into the longings of the human heart that haven't changed. Things like we long for justice, we long for meaning, for my life to mean something, for hope despite some of the struggles that we have. And I think we've got to remember that. We've got a huge thing to offer people, to invite them to consider a vision of the world that's incredibly positive.